Hello folks, this is Steve here. I just want to do a quick thread response to Metal Mickey. Now you have to bear with me because I realise that the guy was Boldmetalnerd or something, and he sort of started this thread. Metal Mickey sort of jumped on it. I know nothing about the Boldmetalnerd. I just subscribed to his channel this morning. But then Metal Mickey, he was saying what he thought about modern metal and modern rock, and has it stagnated. And I just thought I'd add my 5 penny worth, if you like. And my reply to that, no, I don't think it has stagnated. What I think it's done is, I agree with what Mick said. It has got a bit samey, but that's not necessarily the band's fault. It's the record companies you've got to blame. And I think Boldmetalnerd said the same thing. He used the bands. But if you're getting a band that goes into a recording studio, and basically once you relinquish your rights to your music, or I'm sorry, that's not quite right, as soon as you work for a record company, it's like signing a contract with the devil. I know at least 4 or 5 of my friends have made albums, the most famous one being Cancer, and 4 other friends of mine have all made records. Some of them have got multiple records out, and they're in punk bands, and they used to perform down our pub. And they said, some say it was a good experience, but some said it's a really bad experience, because you've spent years working on the songs, and it's your life's work. And you go into the record company and they tell you, we don't want this, we don't like your songs, we want you to do your songs, we want them to do, done like this. And then it's a to and fro. Now if you're a huge act like Metallica, you've got more say over your music. Or if you've made it generated a few tens of millions of dollars in revenue to these record companies, then you get more say. But when you're starting out, you don't get a lot of say at all. Plus you're paying for everything, like the studio time. If you want to make a decent record, it costs money, big money. It's not a cheap thing. And once you've recorded it, then it's got to make that money back before you start earning money off it. And now with the whole dynamics of the record industry, let's take you back to when heavy metal started. Basically, you issued a single in the 80s. They sold millions because there was no downloading, wasn't invented at the time. So then if you was lucky, you had 3 singles off an album. Then you made the album, then you toured. It was album tour, album tour, album tour. I'm just reading some books just recently, and all the 70s bands, because of the tax situation in the UK, was skint. They didn't make much money out of it. They got ripped off, and various record companies ripped them off and everything. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of money. People thought they were millionaires, but they weren't. They were very poor. But the trouble with music is the record companies basically control it, and they state what goes on that record. And it's obvious, if they have a monster hit, an album that sells, say, like the Metallica album did, sells over 1 million albums, they want the same album next time that sells another 1 million albums. And what it's called, it's known as formula writing. You're writing to a formula. And it's the same in books. You've had a big selling novel, so you're trying to adhere to that formula to generate the money, and that's where all artistic thing goes down the toilet. You're just working for the man. But with these bands, if you're huge, you've got a massive say. What I feel is metal in heavy metal. I remember in the early 80s was at its best. Then towards the late 80s, it was getting stagnant. Then all of a sudden, Guns N' Roses gave it a good kick up the backside. Then in the early 90s, people said heavy metal was dead. Then there was a lot of bands out there. The only thing is, you had to look harder for them. There were some brilliant bands in the 90s. There is today out there. I'll name two of them, like Toledo Steel, Night Demon, absolutely amazing metal bands. I don't like this new metal very much either. I like the old sort of traditional style, like power metal, sort of what I used to listen to in the early 80s. That's my style. But there's loads and loads of heavy metal out there, but it's like me at the moment. I spend a lot of time looking for stuff, looking at if you could pick it up on Amazon, buy it. But there's still some brilliant stuff out there. But that's my input anyway. I hope it was any good. But it's not necessarily the artist's faults. They are, at the end of the day, corporate slaves. That's what record companies are. The record companies are out to make a huge sum of money, and some of the stars have managed to maintain their integrity, but a lot of them have lost it along the way. The big example I could think of was Raven. The first two albums were great, but as soon as the huge record company got hold of them, the whole style sort of changed, and they lost all the fans. This is the trouble with the music industry, and it's fickle beast as well, because what today's good, tomorrow is no good, and that's another problem with it. But now, to conclude this short offering, I don't think, my opinion, metal, heavy metal and hard rock will never ever stagnate and will never go away. It just, as I said, needs somebody to come along like Guns N' Roses or somebody. But if you're prepared to look and put some real time into it, you will always find decent heavy metal bands in other countries that are really, really good. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I will be filming in the next couple of days. The light's been appalling here. When you're showing stuff, it's alright when you're talking like I am now, but when you're showing stuff it's a bit difficult because nobody will be able to read the stuff off the CDs or anything like that. But I wish you all farewell. And listen, I didn't even mention the word Brexit once. I reckon they should make Metal Mickey our new Brexit negotiator. That would be a great job for you. Take care.